Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with me, Julie Cameron, a business growth specialist with Action Coach Solihull. So, hi to everybody out there who is listening to us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and those that are joining us on our YouTube channel as well. As I said, I always say on these Lunch and Learns, please drop your details in the chat below. Let me know where you're listening to me from, any questions or queries that you have as I go along, any thoughts, any questions, and I will do my best to get back to you ASAP, either on through today's session, and if not, it'll be later on today, I promise. So today, what are we looking at? Today we are looking at communication, something that I love to talk about because communication is key. So let me just share my screen and let's get started on today. So today we are talking all about DISC, actually. And what is DISC? And as it says on there, building stronger teams through great communication. So communication is key when you are building a team. But what you actually have to think of as a solopreneur out there, actually communication with our clients and our customers is also key. And it's something that I think that we often forget as business owners, is how key and fundamental communication is in securing those sales and securing those relationships with our customers. So there is a golden rule of communication, and the golden rule of communication is to treat other people as you want to be treated. And I think it's something that we can all, I'm sure there's nodding heads out there, people can resonate with that comment. But there is a platinum rule of communication, and that is treat other people as they want to be treated. Now, by that I mean that everybody's individual, everybody likes to talk in different ways, everybody has a certain communication style, so therefore picking up on their communication style and actually communicating to your customer or a supplier or your team the way that they want to be and need to be communicated with, you will get better results from them and better results for your business in a whole. So this is where DISC comes in. So what is DISC? DISC is a needs-motivated observable behavior and emotion, and it's a combination of that good old argument of nature and nurture. So inherent and learned skills. Okay, so that's what DISC is. DISC is not a measure of intelligence, skills, education, or experience, or even an indicator of values. And I think that that's key to recognize. DISC is a needs-motivated. It's based on observable behavior and emotion. And Dr. Marston, in his book, The Emotions of Normal People, researched the theory of and then created this behavioral pattern tool that's called DISC. And there's 4 styles within the DISC profiling, and that's D, how you respond to challenges, so how you dominate them. And I, how you respond to others, how you influence them. S, how you respond to your environment, so the steadiness. And C, how you respond to rules and procedures and compliance. And I think what's key to remember is that all of us out there, we all exhibit all 4 behavioural factors, but what they do is they vary in degrees of intensity. So we could be higher in one and lower in others, but we will show an element of all of them within our profile. So what the DISC profile does, it helps you and it helps us to understand and adapt your own behavioural style to that of others. So a D. What is a D? A D is somebody who is direct, they're result orientated, they look at the bottom line, they're an organiser, a self-starter. And I often think that it's really key to ask ourselves, how would the Ds go swimming? How would they make decisions? Now, I asked this recently at a seminar that I was doing based on DISC, and somebody who I know to be a D within the room said, how do Ds go swimming? And he said, well, I wouldn't. I'd get somebody else to go for me. And that is just classic. That is a very classic statement, because they would do it. They would get it done, but they get somebody else to do it for them. They are driving, they're demanding, they're decisive, they are a doer, and they are dynamic. A D is so when we're looking at a potential famous person out there, a well-known person out there, who is a D? Well, a D would be Gordon Ramsay. So you're kind of understanding the personality behind there. He's decisive, he's a doer, he's dominant. Okay, he wants it done and he wants it done now. So, when you're thinking of a D, think Gordon Ramsay. So who in your team resonates to that? Who in your customers is a Gordon Ramsay? Who in your suppliers is a Gordon Ramsay? And think of that person, okay? Their general characteristics as a D, they are, innovative, they're forward looking, they're challenge orientated, but potentially they could overuse their position, and they set their standards really high, and they take on too much, too soon, too fast, and sometimes can lack tact or diplomacy. Okay, so again, bet there's some nodding heads out there, thinking, oh, that row, yeah, they're a little bit like that, or is that you? Their ideal environment to work in is a freedom to act. They've got that. They need to be able to express ideas. They need to be challenged and have that opportunity. But they can be demanding, they can be aggressive, they can be egotistical, and they can be nervy. So, they are valuable towards your team, but it's understanding that if you place them in an environment that doesn't work for you, doesn't work for them, then potentially they could become in the stress tendency, aggressive, demanding, etc. But they are adventuresome, they are competitive, daring, decisive. They're a problem solver. As employees, they like responsibility. They work well on their own. They like to have control. They don't like to be micromanaged. They interact well with confident people. And if you're dealing with them, what you need to deal with them is the shorter version. So avoid too many details. You've got to communicate with confidence with them, and emphasize success. They want to know that they're doing well. Okay, those are the characteristics of a D. So what I want you to think about is your customers, your suppliers, your employees, yourself. Who is that within your team? Okay. Do you put them in that challenging environment? Are you in that challenging environment? Are you communicating with them in the right way? So the next one is an I. An I is somebody who's enthusiastic, they negotiate conflicts, they're impressionable, they are a team player. So like I said with the D's, how does an I go swimming? How do they make decisions? Well, they'd crack on with it, wouldn't they? They're inspirational, they're interactive, they're sociable, and they're interested. So they'll probably stop halfway down and have a chat. That's how they would go swimming. But they would get everybody involved within that team. They would go by themselves, they'd go with people and swim with them. Great example of an I as a well-known person is Graham Norton. The value to the team, they're optimistic, they're enthusiastic, they're a team player, but sometimes they are inattentive to details, and they can be too trusting, and they may have unrealistic appraisals. In their ideal environment, within the working environment, they need to have that frequent people contact, the freedom from control and details, and they need to have that forum for ideas to be heard. But sometimes they can be unrealistic, overly optimistic, and self-promoting. But they are charming and confident, they're persuasive, popular, sociable, and trusting. That's the general characteristics of an I. As employees, they're good salespeople, they get on well with others. They like to have fun, they make great team leaders, they're good motivators, but they can be too friendly, which can annoy the Ds, okay? When they're dealing with people, they get the best out of other people through their personalities, but they don't like disciplining other team members. And dealing with an I, so if you have a customer who you recognize as an I, win them over, be their friend, show them that you care, have a sense of humor, be stern but not too serious, assure them that it will be fun, and let them talk, okay, because I's love to talk. An S. An S is amiable, service-orientated, stable, and dependable. So how would an S go swimming? How do they make decisions? Well, they're stable, they're dependable, they're service-orientated, they want the same. They're supportive, submissive, and they're a specialist. Okay, so who would an S be? If you were looking out there into the famous world of S's, which is the most famous S that we can think of? Well, might come as a surprise, but it's Richard Branson. He's an S. They're dependable. He works under a leader. They're empathetic. They're logic thinking. They're service orientated. Does that sound like Richard Branson? Yes. Yeah. They dislike, however, unwarranted change, and they're troubled by diverse situations. They like to be in a stable and predictable environment with low conflict, long-term relations. They sometimes, though, can be unconcerned and hesitant, but they are friendly, they're a good listener, they're patient, they're sincere, they're steady, they're a team player. As employees, they're a good team player, they work well alone and with others. They like to be around people and they're good at sales, but they're slow to adapt to change. So if you're recognizing that that's you as an S, maybe you need to be around people that like change or respond to it quicker to make your team more diverse. As an S, you take orders well. They're very calm. So when working with a high D, they keep people calm. So D can be calmed. They take time with decisions though, and they don't like to be pressurized. So don't like pushy people, and they're adverse to change. And then the last one is a C. They're analytical, fact finder, high standards, and detailed orientated. So when you go swimming with a C, what would they do? Well, they'd want to know what's the temperature of the pool. They want to know how long the pool is. They want to know all of those little details. And it's the same how they go swimming. They want the details to be able, how do they make decisions? They want the details. They want that detail orientated. So if you're going to them to ask them to make a decision, then you need to go with the detail. Don't just go with one sentence. You need the nitty gritty. You need that detail because they're cautious, compliant, they're concerned, and they're careful. Mark Zuckerberg is a C. A really successful businessman, and he's a C because he's cautious, he's concerned, but he's very detail focused, very, very detail focused. So they maintain high standards, they're objective, they're a problem solver, but they can be defensive and get bogged down in that detail. And they sometimes can be overly intense in situations or can appear cool and aloof. In their ideal working environment, they need that specialized area in a small group. They need to do technical work because they can be fussy, they can be overcritical, and they can be pessimistic and picky. But they are accurate, analytical, conscientious, they're diplomatic, they're patient, and they understand. As employees, though, they prefer to work alone. They'll provide you with a lot of data. And believe that their way is the best, and sometimes can be slow in making decisions. So it's kind of, they need details before proceeding. And when dealing with they are resistant to change. They have their own ways of doing things. So when you look, and I've put this slide up on there because, DISC characteristics, so for example, support a high D with their conclusions and their actions. They're a doer. A high I, support them with their dreams and intuitions. With a high S, support them with their relationships and their feeling. And a high C, support them with their principles and thinking. And I suppose at the bottom one, the speciality. So with a D is control, with an I is social, an S is supportive, and a C is technical. So there's classic characteristics for each kind of person out there. And I love this, because you can use DISC to sell, okay, and really, really kind of home in on them. So if you were selling to a D, you have to think that a D is a decision maker, and so you must close them. And don't let them go. Make sure that you're asking those questions about objections. Get those objections out so that you can deal with them. But don't let them go and think about it, because if they go away and think about it, they won't come back. Okay. An I, an I is influential. They are decision makers. They are the easiest to sell to. So close them. Because they will chat freely. They will win them over, be their friend, show them that you have that sense of humor, show them that you care about them, you like them, chat freely. They are easy to sell to. With a C, with an S even, I'll go with an S, yes. They're harder to sell to than a D or an I because they don't like change. So for example, Be firm but not pushy when closing them. Agree to them when they'll make a decision. So in other words, they probably won't make a decision today, but actually if you say to them, I'll give you a call next week and we can talk about it then, that will be fine. Okay, so agree when they'll make a decision and they'll stick by it. So in other words, if you were selling a car to an S, okay, an S is somebody that they would stick to the same type of car, but they probably wouldn't change brand because they like the steadiness, they like the safeness, don't like change. Okay, whereas a C, these are the toughest to close because they are skeptical, they're distrustful, they're analytical. So they'll ask you thousands and thousands of questions because they want all the detail. And the key here is to give it to them. Okay. You can't tell them, instead ask questions, provide detail and facts. It's not based on emotion, it's very much based on factual evidence. Ensure that you give them the info they need to make a decision and show them that you can improve their efficiency. That's what's key to them. They're procrastinators, so give them time. They're resistant to change, so follow up on them. Okay, so if you were selling a car to a C, they'll want to know the gas per mile, they'll want to know the ins and outs, how much it will be, what does this look like, what does that, and you give them it. They want to know all of that nitty gritty. If you give it to them freely and with unwillingly, they will respect that, and the chances are they'll respond better to you. So that's it for me for today. So hopefully disc profiling has given you a little bit of an insight into kind of about our teams, about our customers, about our clients. And basically by recognizing whether they're a D, an I, a C or an S, then we can sell more effectively to them and communicate better to them, in the way that they need to be communicated with. Because actually learning that and being aware of that is key. So for example, if you have somebody that comes into your shop who's quite clearly a D, then be decisive and dominant back with them. Communicate on their language. Don't ask them how their day's been. No, just be to the point. In a nice, friendly kind of way, but actually recognize that they are a D and need to be sold in that way. So communicate with others how they need to be communicated with. Now, if you need any more information on this, it's just a little slight insight into bigger programs that we do offer on disc profiling. So please do drop me a note in the chat box, drop me a line, a comment, and I will get back to you. If anybody is wanting to know what they are, then again, please drop details in the chat and I will send you a link to a mini report that will give you a little bit of a taste of insight. Or if you are wanting the more detailed report, there is a slight charge associated with that. But again, happy to set that up for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. If there are any questions, I will get back to you shortly with the answers to them. And I hope you can join me again when I do my next Lunch and Learn with you. So that's me, Julie Cameron, Business Growth Specialist with Action Coach Solihull. Hope you have a great afternoon.